Alright, let's start with a warm-up. Alright, so remember when we're adding and subtracting decimals, we line them up. So let's do the first one. 4.15 plus 7.8. Okay, so 5 plus 0 is 5. 1 plus 8 is 9. Drop the decimal. 4 plus 7 is 11. The next one. 12.64 minus 8.92. 4 minus 2 is 2. You can't do 6 minus 9, so we have to borrow. Alright, so you have to borrow from the 2, so you make 16. So 16 minus 7, or 16 minus 9 is 7. You can't do 1 minus 8, so you gotta borrow. So make that 11 minus 8 is 3. And then you guys can go ahead and do the other two. Alright, 5.1 is congruence in triangles. The objective is to identify congruent triangles and corresponding parts. So, vocab. Corresponding parts are sides and angles that are the same in congruent figures. So what that is saying, a corresponding part, so if we have two triangles, if these two side lengths are the same, those are corresponding parts. Or if we have these two angles that I just drew in, those would be corresponding parts. Congruent are parts of the figures that are the exact same measurement. Okay, congruent, or in other words, it means the same. Theorems. We're going to do one theorem right now. If all parts of two triangles are congruent, then the two triangles are congruent. Okay, so what that's saying is if all parts are congruent, so like if those sides are congruent, and those two sides are congruent, and then those angles, these two angles are congruent, these two angles are congruent, then the triangle is congruent. Congruent parts are corresponding, okay? So they're the same, they're corresponding parts. Now this is a congruent statement. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle JKR. Now, if you notice, A is listed first and J is listed first, okay, in this statement. Those two are the same, congruent, equal to each other, okay? B and K are in the second spot. Those two are equal to each other. And then C and R, those two are equal to each other. So you can tell first, second, third, which are kind of equal to each other. Okay, so corresponding parts. Let's start with angles. So angle A is congruent to angle F. Angle B is congruent to angle D. And angle C is congruent to angle E. You can tell by how they are marked. Okay? So either have 1 mark, 2 marks, or 3 marks. Alright, now let's do segments. So let's start with the first ones. So segment BC is congruent to segment DE. Segment AB is congruent to segment FD. So those two are congruent. Then our last one, I'll write it over here, segment AC is congruent to segment FE. Alright. In the figure, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle KLM. Find the length of KM. Okay, so if we notice, KM is the first and the third in the congruent statement. So, we're looking for the first and the third in the first statement, which is AC. Now, AC is given to us, so we know the length of KM is 45. Then, measure of angle B. Well, B is listed second. L is listed second. L we are given, so angle B is equal to 108 degrees. Next one. Given triangle STU is congruent to triangle YXZ. List all corresponding congruent parts. Alright, so this one's different because the triangles are flipped, so we need to make sure we match up correctly. So let's start with angles. Okay, angle S is congruent to angle Y. Angle U matches with angle Z. Angle T is congruent to angle X. Now let's do side lengths. Okay, so let's start with ST. ST has one little mark, as does XY. And then US has two congruent marks, so does YZ. And UT is congruent to XZ. Okay, so those would be the 6 answers. You're always going to have 6. Alright, last example. Given triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF, find the length of DF and the measure of angle B. Alright, so we're looking for DF. So DF is the first and the third. So is AC. AC we are given is 3, so DF is also equal to 3. Okay, then we're looking for measure of angle B. B's second listed, so is E. We're given E, and E is 28, so the measure of angle B is equal to 28. Alright, what did we learn today? Fill out your summary, what questions you have, and write a sample test question.